In this lesson, we'll go over how to schedule and set up a new sampling event. On the left side of your project menu, click on the Events tab. This will reveal any already scheduled events for your project. To view any previously completed events, simply click the drop-down menu at the top of the column and check the completed box. To add a new sampling event, click the Add Event icon at the top of the list to create a new sampling work scope. This will bring up a window for you to create a new sampling event. First, you will select the media type for this sampling event. Please note, each type of media to be sampled will have to be set up as its own separate sampling event. Multimedia sampling events cannot be created. Each media must be created as a separate event, but can be created to occur on the same day if needed. Next, you can give your sampling event a name. For instance, you can call it First Quarter 2025 or Fall 2025. The title of the event will be populated on the mobile application along with the project name and date for easy recognition. Next, you will select a target date for your sampling event. You can type in the date desired or simply click the calendar icon and select your date from the pop-up calendar. For wastewater or drinking water, you would select a specific time as well. Then click the Create button and your sampling event will be created. Above your work scope, there will be multiple tabs. The Work Scope tab is where you set up your tasks in the field. The Recurrence tab allows you to set this work scope to automatically reoccur at specific times. The Schedule tab allows you to rename, reschedule, and assign specific samplers on your team. The COC Details tab handles information that will go on your chain of custody. And lastly, the Form tabs are where you can access documentation such as bottle labels, bottle orders, sampling reports, and generated chains. The Site Notes button on the top right allows you to enter any specific site notes to appear to the sampler on the field app. If you want to change the event, simply click on the Schedule tab at the top of the page and the event name and target sampling date can be modified if desired. You can also add project manager notes, something like, "This site can only be sampled on Thursday," as an example. The notes at the top box will only appear on this event. The bottom notes section will always show up on all recurring events, if you have this event set to automatically reoccur. If you would like to assign this particular sampling event to one or more designated technicians, under Assigned Users, click the Add icon and then select the users you would like assigned to this particular sampling event. The list of users is pre-populated from the list of individuals who have been previously invited to this project or workspace. To edit the sampling details of your sampling event, click on the Work Scope tab at the top of the page. A list of all your entered sample locations will appear. This page is where we will select which locations to sample or collect field data. The Field Data column is where you can attach custom forms to each sample location. You can add task notes to inform the sample of any specific details needed. The next column will show the connected laboratory accounts on your project. These are edited in the Edit Labs tab on the left menu. Here you can add notes that appear on the chain of custody. And lastly, we have the Alerts column, where you can customize messages and alerts to notify if certain tasks aren't completed. First, let's assign a custom form for field data collection. There are many built-in forms that appear for various sampling methods and media. For instance, when sampling groundwater, the user will be prompted a built-in groundwater field data form for inputting dissolved oxygen, conductivity, turbidity, and more. Because we already assume you'll need to collect that data, custom forms are for data points that are specific to your data collection processes. Here, we're going to add a well inspection form. Custom form creation is covered in another video. Next, we're going to add tests to sample locations. Click on the Add Tests button in the Lab column of the work scope. This will open a pre-populated list of all the analytical tests that the selected lab offers. You can scroll through the list for the desired analytical test you wish to perform on this project or search for the desired parameter at the top of the window. Or you can add your own test by clicking the Create Test button. We cover more about creating your own tests in a separate video. In this example, we're going to select BTEX and chlorides. Each selected test will now appear as a new column in the sample location box. To select the test to be performed at a particular sampling location, simply check the appropriate box under the analytical parameter. If you want to select all or unselect all, simply check or uncheck the small box at the top of the column. Depending on your type of media, you will have an option to select the type of sampling method you will be performing in the field. This will determine the types of built-in forms to appear in the field app. For instance, selecting low flow as your sampling method will supply the low flow stabilization screen on the field app. If you only want to collect a groundwater elevation at a particular location, click the box to the right of the sample ID until it says Gauge Only. This will then be indicated to the field sampler. Please note that when you indicate that a well is to be sampled for any parameter, it is assumed that a groundwater elevation is automatically collected. Sometimes you may want to collect a sample and ship it to the lab, but not have the lab run the sample right away. If this is the case, check the Hold box next to the sample location, and this will indicate to the lab to hold a sample for further instruction. The next column is where you can write notes to the lab on the chain of custody. Lastly, we have alerts. You can assign specific alerts to samples in any work scope. Alerts are there to inform you and your team when specific tasks aren't completed in a specific time frame. At the bottom of the screen, under Quality Control Preferences and Instructions, is where you will select your preferences. If you want to add duplicates for your field event, you will check the Blind Duplicate box. This reveals an Add Location button. Click the Add Location button and a drop-down selection box will appear with a list of all the sample locations you selected to be tested. Select the sample location you want to have run as a duplicate and then select the parameters you want tested on the duplicate. Note the platform will not let you run a duplicate parameter that you did not select for the original sample. If you want to add another duplicate, click the Add Location button again and repeat the process. Please note, the lab will not know which sample the duplicate belongs to as it is listed as duplicate number 1, etc. On the chain of custody with the collection time omitted, it is a blind duplicate to the laboratory. The MSNSD samples operate similarly as the duplicates with the exception that the samples are listed accordingly on the chain of custody. You can also select if you want field blanks, equipment blanks, and trip blanks as well. You select your preferences, the number of each type you want, and the parameters you want tested. Please note that if you want to do a round of groundwater elevations on all your monitoring wells first, before starting sampling, it's best to create 2 separate events on the same day. One event for just the groundwater elevations and a separate event for the sampling. If you are not doing a full round of elevations first, then they can be combined into one event. You can also add an event level form to your sampling event. This form is selected from your saved form library. An event level form is for data collection that applies to the entire event, not a single sample location. A good example of an event level form would be an equipment checklist or a safety tailgate form. This form will then be available on the field app. After you have your sampling preferences selected, hit the Save button at the bottom of the page to save the sampling event work scope. Every time you edit the work scope, be sure to hit the Save button before leaving the page. That is how you create a sampling event work scope.